Hi, welcome to You Can Talk. My name is Ruth Finney, and I'm so very glad you clicked here because this is the channel you've been looking for. A channel solely dedicated to helping you talk your way to healthier relationships. Whether you're married or dating, if you have some level of family or friends or people that you work with, then somewhere in at least one, if not all of these areas, I know you've struggled with communication. If you're ready to experience some real change in communication with your relationships, and you're willing to put some simple principles into practice, become a subscriber of You Can Talk. Click that notification bell and walk with me every Thursday through the user's manual as we discover some revelations in communication that you can incorporate into your life. On this channel, we will tackle some of the most common and challenging issues we all face, so you can learn to talk your way to healthier relationships. In episode 2, we looked at the first two talk principles of taming the tongue and approaching with compassion. If you missed it, I'll put a link for you to go back and watch it. But today, we're going to look a little closer at the other two talk principles, which are listen deeply and knock down barriers. Understanding and applying these two principles will enable you to listen beyond the words being said and knock down the barriers that are preventing you from getting to the heart of the matter. So the third principle I'll discuss is the letter L in talk, which stands for listen deeply. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. In a world where it seems everybody has something to say, people are practicing more and more how to tune each other out. We cover our ears from outsiders with sound-blocking headphones and build man caves and she sheds in our own homes just to isolate ourselves from those we care about. And when that doesn't work, we'll plan a trip of escape to a place as far away from other humans as our finances will allow. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a firm believer of quiet time, prayer, meditation, or whatever personal time you need to refuel your spirit and these vessels we've been given. Because when our vessel is empty, we have nothing to give by way of service to the world. And yes, in case you were wondering, our life's purpose is to use whatever gifts and talents we've been given from the manufacturer to serve the world. So the issue comes when we isolate ourselves from human interaction so much that the communication skills needed to pull out the insight and understanding we all gain from each other through education and life experiences will diminish, and in some cases never even gets developed. Let's take a look at our user's manual. All of our instruction today will be coming from the Book of Proverbs in this session. The Book of Proverbs is a collection of biblical wisdom, values, and moral behavior. It also speaks to the meaning of human life and how we are to conduct ourselves. It was inspired by God and written by King Solomon, who wrote these instructions on how to please God and be more peaceful with all mankind. Proverbs 20:5 says, "The purpose in a man's heart is like deep water, teeming with living things. But a man of understanding," meaning a man who listens with the intention to find understanding, "will draw it out." These vessels we live in are a repository of valuable treasures, good and sometimes not so good. We give these treasures to each other when we share our educational knowledge, our life experiences, our talents, our abilities, and our spirits. I promise you, there is something to learn from everyone. Communication with others helps us expand our knowledge. It helps us to build on what others have discovered and contributed to the world. It also helps us to know where to use caution and how to prepare for occurrences of potential harm. Through communication, we can learn to overcome obstacles, grow spiritually, and navigate our way forward in a life that, if we're not careful, will destroy us. Our user's manual says in Proverbs 19 and 20, "Listen to advice and accept instruction, that you may gain wisdom in the future." So how do we listen deeply? Well, it's not a skill we can master overnight. It's something we have to work at daily with every encounter. Remember, everything here is about progress, not perfection. The first thing it requires is the presence of our awareness. Most of the time, we are so preoccupied with ourselves and our own thoughts that we don't clear a space to even make room to listen. It's like walking into a jam-packed room and there's nowhere to sit. When preparing to listen deeply, we take a moment to clear our thoughts and be present in conversation. However, when we know we're not in a good space to give the other person our full attention, don't be afraid to let it be known. So how do we do that without sounding like we're a jerk or we don't care and we really just want them to go away? Well, we can say, "I understand that this matter is important to you, and I really want to be able to give you my undivided attention, but I have some other pressing issues that have taken priority over my thoughts right now. Can we schedule this conversation for a later time when I'm able to give you more of my full attention?" And set a time and date from there that you can honor. Second, listening deeply requires the discipline of patience. This level of patience is the practice of allowing whoever is speaking to finish out their statement without our interruption, and without the presumption that we already know what they're going to say. We are literally putting ourselves in position as though we're hearing the information coming from this person for the first time. This gives us the opportunity to learn something we may not have known before. We cannot address a situation that we do not understand, and in order to understand, we must listen fully. Now, I know this is difficult for those of us who have an intolerance to those who thrive off of nonsense and seem to want to live in that space of making the same bad decisions over and over and over again for whatever reason. However, if what they're saying is literally something we've heard 50 times and we can't take listening to it anymore, we can say, "I've heard you make these very statements before, and I understand that this is something you're really struggling with. My question at this point is to ask you, what commitments have you made, or what commitments are you willing to make in order to move towards changing this situation? Or if it can't be changed, what commitments are you willing to make to change your outlook of the situation?" From that point, we change from listening to a continuously recycled problem to what efforts the person has made to produce the change that they desire. If they haven't made any efforts or they're not willing to commit to anything, then there's really no longer the need to listen to a recycled issue. So in response, we can say, "I'm aware that this issue has been troubling you for a while now. And though I appreciate that you consider me a trusted friend or family member, I cannot help you, or I'm no longer willing to listen to this if you're unwilling to make any commitments to take action. So when you're ready to change your outlook about the situation, let me know. And when you're ready, I will be there and I will be willing to help you move forward." If they're willing to make some commitments, then we can begin the role of holding the person accountable to the actions that they have committed to making. Nobody likes to listen to a broken record. So with this strategy, we can change the nature of that kind of dumping relationship to one that's less draining and more productive. When we continuously hold the person accountable to their commitments and they don't take any actions on their own, they'll eventually stop coming to us with that recycled problem. Third, listening deeply requires the effort of intention. This is the practice of keeping our body language open with nothing cross, and we're keeping our facial expressions in check. For many of us, that alone is a challenge in and of itself. Ideally, we're facing the person. Our face is relaxed and our eyes are focused on them, not our phone, not other parts of their body, and not the clock. This means we may have to concentrate, which for many of us is not easy, especially when we don't want to be there. When we listen with an open disposition, we prepare ourselves to receive something we may not have known, or maybe just have forgotten. Remember that saying, silence is golden? Well, here's a little gold nugget for you, and an awesome thing about listening deeply that you may not have discovered yet. When someone brings us a fiery issue or a difficult problem to discuss, and we can see they are ready to unload, well, when the person who is speaking sees that we are in an open and maybe somewhat relaxed state, taking in everything they have to say without interrupting, it builds a sense of trust that what they have to say actually matters to us. This sense of trust automatically diffuses potential hostile emotions. In our user's manual, Proverbs 15:1 says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word just stirs up anger." So rather than responding in an abrupt or hostile manner, in response, we can say, "I heard everything you had to say, and I can see that this is a passionate or important issue for you. If you finished saying everything you needed to say, I'd like for you to give me the opportunity to respond, and give me the same courtesy of hearing me full out before you respond." From there, we can move into further dialogue, even if the conversation has to be continued further at a later time. So the fourth and final principle I'll discuss is the letter K in talk, which stands for knock down barriers. This is where we'll tackle some common issues and learn to apply the 4 talk principles to real situations that are creating the barriers that prevent us from having the healthy relationships we desire. So for example, here's the scenario. We've had a challenging day and we're in the middle of doing whatever it is that we're doing, and suddenly this person comes up to us and says, "We need to talk." Immediately, the tone in their voice, along with the expression on their face, has us wanting to run out the building, because really, we'd rather be anywhere in that moment other than entering into another conversation with this person, or having to discuss this fiery topic once again. We already know we're not in a good space, and it sounds like they aren't either. This is a recipe for disaster. The train is coming full force, and neither one of us are willing to move out of the way. Now, before you started watching this video and became a subscriber to UCANTALK, after hearing that we need to talk, you might would have rolled your eyes and said, "What is it now?" Then you would have went on to suffer your way through an ear-cringing, tongue-biting conversation. You'd try to hold yourself back from scraping your eyeballs out and theirs. Then you probably would have gone on to have this exchange of sharp words and flared emotions and bitter comments that go down like sour vinegar. And by the time you're done, you're completely drained and emotionally spent, and left only with anger, because now you're burping up that sour vinegar, replaying the worst parts of that conversation over and over again in your mind. And now there's also resentment towards the person, because you really weren't in the mood to have the conversation in the first place. So here's how that could have gone down had you obtained this listen deeply knowledge earlier. As soon as you heard that "we need to talk," you could have taken a minute, assessed your current condition and the tone of the speaker, and responded with, "I know you have this pressing issue we need to discuss, but now is really not a good time for me, and I want to be open to hearing what you have to say. If you give me some time, I'll be in a better mental space to sit down and have this discussion with you." Now, this can be a few minutes to a few hours, or maybe you need a day or two. Only you know that. At that point, instead of arguing, the two of you can settle on a time that you can commit to in order to have this discussion. The important thing is to not let them force you into a conversation you're not ready to have. But also, don't let too much time go by, or the frustration of having to wait will only resurface that negative emotion. Honor the time you've set to talk. Hopefully by then, all parties involved will be in a better mental space, and you can begin to incorporate the listen deeply skills you learned in this video today. Be present and aware. Be patient and let them finish their statements without interruption. And be open with your body language, listening with the intention of learning something you may not have known or possibly forgotten. In our user's manual, Proverbs 1:5 says, "Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance." If you can relate to any or all of these communication struggles and are tired of the seemingly endless cycle of communication barriers that are keeping you from the relationships you desire to have with others, then subscribe to UCANTALK, select that notification bell, and meet me here on Thursdays for the next episode where we'll be discussing how to love the seemingly unlovable and learn to see them through new eyes. If you're ready to experience some real change in the communication in your relationships, commit to discovering how you can tame the tongue, approach with compassion, listen deeply, knock down barriers, and talk your way to healthier relationships. Let your communication be the light of love the world so desperately needs to hear. Leave a comment below and let me know which Listen Deeply skill will be your tip of the week or talk-inspired practice that you're willing to commit to working on. Presence and awareness, patience to hear the person fully out before you respond, or the effort of intention, being open and fully focused on the words being spoken. Thanks for watching, and if you would, please like and share this video, and I'll see you here next Thursday.